Hi, welcome back everyone. As always, it's great to see the new faces and the old faces, and we're always happy to see you guys on Thursdays and hope you guys join for the next meetings as well. And going on to events, last week we did have Brandon Yamada, an analyst at MetLife and a past REA president. We did receive his supplemental, so we are going to send that out in the Slack. So if you haven't joined the Slack, please do so you can get access to that information. This week, we are having a wholesaling and real estate investing talk with Albert Bowie and Matthew Kwan from Avenue One Capital. And, we're going to go into that later towards the end. Next week, we're going to have a double event. So on March 22nd, on Tuesday, we're going to have a SMIC collab with that presents Matthew Guerra from Principal Quality Investments. I believe he's the CEO, and this is a private equity real estate firm. So something that we haven't discussed in this group before. So please make sure to make it. That will be a different Zoom link that'll be in our newsletter and our Instagram page. And then March 24th, which is a Thursday, we're going to have guest speaker Crystal Levis from Commonwealth Land Title Insurance. So she's the one who's been, who reached out to us to find a sales exec for her title insurance company. So it'll be interesting to hear from her. And of course, that leads to spring break the week after. So we're almost there for our break. And I'll pass it off to Heidi for social media.
Yeah, so if you haven't already, follow us on our social media platform. We post every week on our Instagram, and we post announcements and other opportunities on our Slack, like Sanika said. So Martin will post our link tree, which will take you to all of the links. And the next slide, I can do this slide too. So if to be a general member, you could just register through MyBar. To be a paid member, Venmo Talaya, it's $20 a semester and $30 for a full year. And when you Venmo her, make sure you have your full name, your email address, which membership you're paying for. If you prefer another payment method, you can email her at the email address listed. And there are a lot of benefits for being a paid member. You get merch, you get this whole membership packages. There's a lot of things that we listed on our Instagram post, and it will talk more about on our newsletter and so forth.
And just a quick recap, so Crew Inland Empire is doing a scholarship this year. It's going to end in April, so April 15th, I believe. So this is specifically for 30 female identifying students. They're going to pick that and then give them $5,000 in scholarship money. And not only are you giving the funds to, pursue your education, further that education, but you are given tremendous opportunities like an internship during the summer. You get to shadow and become a mentee to a real estate professional in the industry, and just so much more. Caitlin and I won the scholarship last semester, and that it's been a great experience. Everyone is so kind, so sweet at that event, and you're also given a student membership so you can join all of their events for free or for a discounted price. So I'd 100% recommend joining this. I believe Martin's going to post the link in the chat, but this is a great opportunity, and why not, right? And this is about the job posting, with Crystal Levis, Commonwealth Land Title Insurance. She is looking for a commercial sales executive to work with her in Ontario, California, and it's specifically for recent or soon to be graduates. I believe Martin will be posting the Google Docs that has all the information about the role and what she's looking for, and then also the email that you would have to send your resume to. And, even if you don't fit in this, Crystal's an amazing woman. She is super kind, super sweet. And if you want to just send her an email to just learn more about Commonwealth, please do. She's more than happy to spread that knowledge to everyone. And that's why she's coming next week as well. And Heidi, if you want to do this one.
Yeah, so Professor Edmund Wu, he has opened up 2 weeks of his economics and investment class for REA members to attend. He'll be talking about real estate during these 2 weeks, starting this week today, from 5:30 to 8 p.m. And it is in person, Building 1, room 309. So if you can make it, this is a really great opportunity for to learn in a classroom setting more about real estate.
And before we pass it on to our guest speakers, we just want to go over a few REA and etiquette things. So number one is that, during the presentation, like we mentioned before, we appreciate your guys' support. Without you guys, this wouldn't happen. We wouldn't be presenting to anyone or having anyone join us to talk to you guys. And so with that being said, would appreciate if the questions and comments can be kept to the end, or you could utilize the chat function, just so we respect our guest speakers' time, and also we get the most out of what they're going to be talking about for you guys as well. At the end of the meeting, towards the Q&A time, we do appreciate if everyone could just use the raise hand function when to ask a question or talk about something. This is just to ensure, that we get through everyone and everyone has their questions answered. And also, Zoom fatigue is real. I'm pretty sure all of us have felt it in the last 2 years. And I definitely sometimes don't want to have my video on or have or speak, So feel free to use the chat function too for that situation. And, one of the eBoard members will call on you and make sure that, your comment is heard, your question is heard and answered. And so without further ado, I want to present guest speakers Albert Bowie and Matthew Kwan. Albert Bowie is a mortgage planner and Matthew Kwan's a mortgage loan coordinator from Avenue One Capital. And today they'll be talking about wholesaling and real estate investing. So I will pass it on to you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Aniko. Thanks for having us. We're glad to be here. It's always good to be back, even digitally. I was at Cal Poly from 02 to 11. I kind of just switched about 3 majors and didn't know what I wanted to do, but I eventually just ended up liking finance, read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it was a great book, inspired me to move into real estate. And what better than to join the Real Estate Association at the time. Glad to see the club open back up. I don't know if it was ever closed. However, I ended up joining the finance one. There was another finance one as well on Cal Poly. And I got into FRL as a result. And that's when I leaped from computer science to, I think I went to IBM as well, international business, and ended up at FRL. At first, in the finance part of it, I think there was 3 tracks. There was one that was stock, one that was real estate, and one that was law, I believe. So another legal focused one. That's what led me into real estate. I initially started by working part-time at Verizon Wireless and was a rep doing sales. So I had prior sales background already, and went into getting the real estate license, which kind of helped. I didn't direction, I did. But early on, I met a loan officer as a client, and she said, hey, come on over and work with me. So I ended up working with her after the work, basically. So that's how I got into lending. So we helped on a couple files. We called and refinanced. This was 2008, so a good 14 years ago. And ended up doing about 5 refinances with her. And I liked that I could use whatever I learned in class, like the present value, inflation rates, all the finance stuff I was learning. Because what got me interested was how do I use this to actually do stuff in real life? Like, I'm learning all this stuff and getting grades just so I can pass and, impress my parents. But ultimately, like, what is this all for, right? So I finally got to use all this stuff, and I became really interested with it, because every day I would get to learn about, like, for instance, on our end, when you have a whole rate sheet as a mortgage broker, the higher rates pay more and the lower rates cost more. And there's a concept in finance where it was like a risk premium. You have to pay when there's more risk, you have to have more reward to do the investment. And that kind of played out in the mortgage world. So you kind of learn this stuff. You get to interact with real life. So that's really what got me into the finance side of it. In terms of moving into real estate, what I figured was doing mortgages, you make good money, but it wasn't consistent. What happened was that we would sometimes, it'd be feast or famine, because keep in mind, this was 08 and 10 during the great financial crisis. So there was literally no business around. All the realtors were at open houses showing homes, but nobody was buying. So we really had to work our tails off to find business as a mortgage broker at the time. Nowadays, it's easy, right? It's like a gold mine, and everyone's trying to buy, and there's tons of people at open houses. But back then, it was a different story. So we had just come through this massive recession. There was a ton of inventory, and there's houses everywhere for sale, but there weren't many buyers, and people were moving back in with their parents and all that. So it was really tough to find anybody. And the people we did find had low credit or bankruptcies or foreclosures on their credit. They just lost a bunch of properties, or in the process, they were in the process of losing properties. So it was a great time to learn looking back, because, you know, we weren't bombarded with tons of information. We had plenty of time. So I realized that, you know, back to mortgages were a feast or famine. So I had to get into figuring out how to get stable income. And for me, that was rental properties, by Rich Dad Poor Dad, the book. So my goal was to buy a rental every other year or every year, and use that rental income to help supplement the loans in between. So that when we went through these valleys of getting a loan or not getting a loan, we would be able to actually have income coming in. And but at the time, it was just myself. There was no Matt. There was nobody else. I was a sole loan officer. I had left Verizon and became a full-time loan officer in 2011. So it took me 2.5 years of being moonlighting and working afternoons and helping and mentoring to figure out how to get on my own. So that's in a nutshell, from Cal Poly straight to mortgage, and why I got into real estate investing. So that kind of is the real estate association part of this. Sanika, did you want me to talk about wholesaling? Because that I don't actually do wholesale, but I work with a lot of real estate investors, and we help them finance loans to purchase wholesale deals, but we don't actually do any wholesaling ourselves. So if you guys don't know, wholesaling is the process of getting a property under contract, so between you and the seller, and you're selling your right in that contract to another buyer. So you're basically selling the piece of paper, is what it is. And for instance, if you get into contract at 100 grand, I know there's nothing in Orange County for 100 grand, maybe a closet or something, but 100,000, and then you find a buyer at 120, and you offer them the property for 120, and if they sign that contract for 120, you make the difference. And that's what wholesaling is. We don't do it. I've been offered wholesale deals as a buyer, but in essence, that's what it is. And they're selling another contract to the end buyer. And the reason they call it wholesaling is because usually you're getting a property in less favorable condition or under market. So you're buying quote unquote wholesale. And usually what the people that buy these properties are fix and flippers, people that fix, repair homes, and they prepare it for end home users, home buyers. So they usually buy with a ton of rehab potential. They fix it, make it all look nice and pretty. The wholesaler makes their money, right? The difference between the 100 and the 120. And you as the rehabber would buy it, fix it up, and sell it to Sally, Joe, or whatever homeowner. And the homeowners would buy the home at that point. So that's where the wholesaler fits in the picture. They're not like some college educated like profession. These are guys that are kind of like, you know, they're wheeler and dealers, and they provide a service. So it's a great avenue of real estate if you're looking to fit into the real estate part of it. You know, there's a lot of areas. You can go in lending, you can go in title, You could be a wholesaler, you could be a developer, you could be a mortgage person. There's so many avenues. You can be an underwriter for a mortgage company. So even within the mortgage company, we have many roles. Like Matt, he helps us with loan coordinating and processing. So from the file life to the end, when you're as a borrower, you're applying for a loan, he helps process and make sure everything's on track. And our clients are closing on time on their purchases or their refinances of their property. So that's what we do on the mortgage side. We're the finance, we're the money side of it. And we basically all work remote. Even pre-COVID, I was always laptop, internet. I had a Bluetooth scanner and Bluetooth printer in my car. Never really used a physical office. We had one, but we didn't really need to because we would meet realtors in the field, like real estate agents. And if we needed anything printed, we can go off the cloud and print it. We could fill out the forms, scan them, and upload them back to the cloud. So it was never really a physical office. One of the questions Tanika had was, how did COVID-19 affect us? And it didn't really do anything. It was just business as usual. So mortgage was a great industry because it actually became even more profitable in COVID, as unfavorable as that sounds. We actually did better. And I know some businesses didn't do as fortunate. In terms of what we do, that was an intro. Hopefully, if you guys have questions on it, we'll answer it later. But the advice I would have for people starting out looking to get into mortgage is please come talk to us. We'll be happy to see how your personality fits with what we're doing, and if there is an avenue. Even if we could refer you out, we could refer you to title companies if you want to work with title. There's a lot of realtors that always need help. So real estate agents constantly need help. Or if you want to work in more of the insurance side, there's insurance underwriters that underwrite insurance and they figure out how to charge and all that too. So the field is extremely wide and there's definitely a lot of opportunity. What I like most is I get to use finance, which is I already like the money aspect of it, and I was able to use what I like to create a great income. But ultimately, even Matt, which he's here to speak about, we're both real estate investors. I constantly buy buildings and rent them out, and are constantly rehabbing as well. So just to clarify, I don't fix or flip properties, meaning I don't rehab apartments or buildings to sell. I would acquire and rehab to rent out. So I keep the buildings and I lease them out. So that's the main model, but we're also mortgage brokers, and that's our kind of like our day job is we talk to our clients about. And we do have a lot of opportunities, so we would love to talk about that, but I want to give you guys a moment to introduce our main speaker, and that's Matt Kwan, my lead processor. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Albert. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks for REA for having me today, and Albert and the company. So just a little bit of background. I graduated UW, University of Washington, in the year of 2020, which is during during the COVID year, and I graduated in communication and business. And at that time, my plan was to basically take a gap year and apply to grad school and study MBA or finance. But during that time, I realized the last quarter that I graduated, I didn't want to do that via Zoom. So that's why I thought about it as okay, maybe going to grad school would not be a good idea, especially during the pandemic, everything what is happening around the world. So I decided to maybe find a job and build up my resume and build my foundation and see where to go. So it took me a month or two to find a job, and I was fortunate enough to land a job at a sales rep by selling cleaning services and cleaning chemicals. Well, it wasn't the best service that you would be proud of selling, but hey, it was during the pandemic, you would get whatever job you can find. So I worked there for almost a year or maybe 10 months. And during that time, I realized that in order to go to grad school or maybe build up my foundation, I would have to start taking online classes and starting to read news articles and everything just to build up my foundation so that I can maybe apply into a competitive school. But like as I work for like a year, for the company, I started to realize that like, so what is my main goal to go to grad school? Is it validation from my parents, or you know how Asian parents, like, you don't want to disappoint them. And my dad keeps saying that like undergrad is just a minimum requirement. And in today's day of age, everyone's walking with a graduate degree. So I kept on thinking and I thought about it. It's like, okay, my goal is to basically have the knowledge to generate income and manage that money, and being able to create wealth through diversification and investment. So during that time, I started to like having a slight change of route by going to YouTube and like studying like news articles every day. And one day, it was at night, I remember, I was at the gym listening to a podcast called Graham Stephan. I'm not sure if you guys heard about him. He's basically a YouTuber influencer, and he talks about like the basics, the principles of finance. And there was one video that I remember. He talked about like 8 ways that you can invest on or you should do in your early 20s. So I clicked on it, and he basically gave a breakdown of like 8 checklists. And I was literally going through the checklist. The first 2 was like, oh, if you have the money, invest it in, putting your money in savings account or like high yield savings. And I was like, okay, I did that, which is like, it gives you like 0.60% of return a year, depending on how the interest rate goes. But like during that time, interest rate was like super low. So basically there was like a moment that like you weren't getting any returns, and there was an edge that you probably had to start paying the bank to keep your money in the savings account. And I was like, heck no. So there was like 401k, those kind of stuff. And what caught my attention was the last 3 was stocks, cryptocurrency, and real estate. But like during that time as a 21-year-old, it was like real estate. It's like, you probably heard about like a lot of people say, oh, you need at least 20% down to buy a real estate, or else like, yeah, you can't afford it. So I was like, okay, I definitely don't have 20%. So I was like, okay, that was like a thought in the back burner. So that's why I started learning how to invest in stock and cryptocurrency, because that required less capital. And during that time, I realized that like I had to do my due diligence by like studying the stock, like whatever company that I should invest, and like average, it gives you like 15% of return if the company goes well. I mean, except for Peloton. So whoever invested in Peloton, yeah. And also for cryptocurrency, which is, I said I had to study what is the blockchain, and like I heard about like Bitcoin and everything like when I was in college, but I just never understand as okay, it was just an investment thing that people became rich, but I just didn't know like why is it like how did it impact and how did it boom, because the scarcity of Bitcoin versus the limited supply by the government printing the fiat money. So during that couple months, I started investing in crypto and stocks. Well, I'm not saying that I have like a ton of money like waiting in a bank to invest on, because I was just fortunate enough to graduate debt free. I appreciate my parents, and I was able to work part time while I was in college. So I was able to save my money, and I was staying at home. So that's why I was able to live in a minimal lifestyle with lesser spending. And during that time, I started investing until there was like one moment that I think it was like March 2021 when Elon Musk tweeted about that Tesla no longer accepts Bitcoin due to like the energy usage, and it harms the earth and everything. And I realized that during that time, Bitcoin literally dropped like 15%. It was like at 52K, I remember, and it dropped to all the way to 34K in 2 weeks. And I was just like, yeah, that was like a realization that I thought about, that, wow, how heavily influenced by the market it is when it comes to stocks and like crypto. I mean, I understand, like, of course, everyone keeps saying that, oh, it's all based on the market and the economy and like news, but sometimes you just have to like experience it by yourself to actually understand it. So I'm just like, okay, in the long run, I don't think this is really a sustainable investment form. So I thought, and during my time, I watched Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is by Robert Kiyosaki, that purple pink cover book that Albert mentioned, and he talked about how he invests in like commodities like real gold, silver, which he calls it the God's money, and real estate, where he doesn't invest on like dollar paper because he always calls them the shit money versus like the commodities like gold, silver. But like during that time, I was like, yeah, I don't really want to invest in commodity because I don't want to keep gold. But like those were the two assets, like real estate and gold, silver, that was like a real physical asset that you can carry and hold. But during that time, I was still, I was still 21 or 22. I was like, okay, I don't have 20 down. So I'm just like, I'll probably have to keep investing in stocks. But however, it was a perfect timing because like sometimes you heard about like, especially in a relationship, you have to meet the right person, the right timing. And I was able to meet Albert, which is my shifu, or I would say mentor. And he was introduced by a friend of mine. Her name was Louisa, and she started in real estate, and she introduced me to like Albert because I really wanted to understand like the finance side of it and like being able to like understand the mortgage side of it, because if I want to invest in real estate, same with him, like I have to know like how the money aspect works, how the debt side worked. And during that time, I was working for him as an unpaid internship, and I actually learned a lot because I was like amazed that like there's not like one fixed product that's like you need 20% down to invest in real estate. You can actually invest in 3.5, like 3.5, as low as 3.5, 5%, or even 0% if you're a veteran. And during my time working for him or like interning for him, I met a kid. He was like literally the same age as me, graduated in 2020 in Boise State, and I was surprised. He was able to get a duplex and bought his condo at the age of 23, which is at that time I was 23 as well, which is last year. And I was like amazed. I was like, how is this kid even getting a duplex and a condo at this age? I was like, where did you get the capital? He's like, oh, I paid like this minimum 3.5 down. And so as I start entering like with Albert, I started like, oh, that's what he meant. The 3.5 down is the FHA loan, which is called Federal Housing Administration. And it is a loan that basically is a governmental loan that is secured by the government that provides Americans to be or first-time home buyers to own a home and have the ability to buy a home. So it's basically an opportunity for everyone to be a homeowner. And I realized like the good thing about it is that like you don't have to only buy a house. The good side about it, like it allows you to buy up to 1 to 4 unit and still consider and qualify as an FHA loan. So I realized, oh, that could be a good starting point for me, because I did the calculation. I was like, I think I have 3.5% down. However, the only obstacle was I needed 2 years of employment income. 2 years of employment. And 2 years of employment was the obstacle for me, because I left my job and started working with Albert, and I was an unpaid intern, so I didn't have income for like 3-4 months. But I really wanted to start investing because like with price inflation, everything's going up. Because I was planning to invest sooner or later, like why not invest now? So I thought about it. I was like, okay, what are some ways that I could maybe invest early? And I was fortunate enough, like I considered my sister. So a little bit of background on my sister is she also graduated from grad school in law in 2020, same year as me. I graduated from undergrad, and she graduated from from law school. And she landed a full-time job at a law firm in Seattle, and she was making good money for sure. But however, like because of her personality, she was so reserved. She's very conservative, and as that, like a lot of people say that, oh, you probably need 6 months of reserve before you start investing or maybe quit your job. But for her, she would probably need like a year of reserve in order to like feel comfortably and sleep like a baby. But I kept telling her, I kept persuading her like, hey, do you want to maybe like work on a deal together? Because based on her personality, like I noticed like based on her like total income and assets and everything, she would be able to qualify by herself and buy a apartment or a house easily. However, I believe that she won't have enough capital to like do the rehab or anything, because once she pays everything, like she would be like living in a minimal lifestyle. So I proposed to her, like, how about you pay, I'll use your name, your income to qualify, and you pay half the down payment, and I would pay all the rest of the down payment and the rehab costs. And she was like, yeah, I still want to buy a house. And I kept persuading her, because at the end, buying a house, it's cool, you get to flex for your friends and everything, but it doesn't really generate cash flow if you're living there, unless you do house hack, but that's a different thing, because you want to buy a house for your own privacy. But with apartment, you can live in one tiny unit if you're still single, or even if you have a family, you can still have an apartment and rent the other 3 or other 2 units to generate cash flow to cover your mortgage statement or your mortgage loan. So it took me like 2 months to persuade her, and there was a point that she started realizing all the money that she's saving in her AKA high yield savings that she claims to say, oh, they have a lot of return. It's not catching up with the economy in terms of inflation, because inflation right now, it's like, according to the government, they said that it's 7%. So basically, every $100 that you put in your bank, and the buying power, you only have 93%. So she realized that, and I was able to persuade her, and we worked things out, and we started hunting, and we did the calculations, and we had to like buy the more doors in order to like cover our mortgage and maybe have positive cash flow. Because like, if your first investment, if you're paying like, let's say X amount of money, and every month you still have to pay and you're still getting negative cash flow, then I wouldn't say that would be a good investment. So we spent like a month or 2 to like house hunting, and we found like a duplex that made sense. No, not duplex, sorry, a triplex that made sense. And our monthly mortgage is $3,500 right now. And I think 2 units out, because we bought it as a primary, so we do have to live 1 unit for 1 year, and after 1 year we can rent all 3 units out. So the first year we already did the calculation, as long as we make break even, that would be good. So the next year, after next year, we could start making positive cash flow of like maybe $500 or $800 a month, depending on the expenses, of course. So yeah, me and my sister was able to get our first triplex in January, and we spent like literally the past 2 months rehabbing. And I mean, it was stressful, of course, but at the same time, I was able to learn a lot of knowledge that you can't even learn in school, because in school you can only like, oh, here's the present value equation, and you have to calculate it, but like you never used it in life to how to like create wealth or sustain it. So yeah, and I really appreciate Albert for giving me the opportunity to like learn from him. And like also, whenever he goes to one of his like apartments or like condos, I would just go there and like learn and like what materials to use. And like for the past 2 months, I would wake up on the weekends, go with my contractor, go to Home Depot at like 7 a.m. to buy materials. And to the point that like now, whenever I go to like a restaurant, I would just look at their sink or floor. I was like, oh, I know how much they paid and like, oh, what quality they use. So it's kind of weird, like freaky in the same way, but like it's very like rewarding, because like the knowledge that you learn, you can't learn it from a book. So yeah, so that is my story for why I started investing in real estate, and I hope that I maybe could have more stories to share. Thank you.
If you have any questions, feel free to fire them. We're active investors, and I do take Matt to all the projects. When I'm doing rehabs, I have 2 rehabs currently right now in Seattle. I'm in Orange County at the moment. But I'll take them with me. When vendors want to meet me, I'll meet the vendors. We got Valspar, Sherman-Williams, paint reps, I bring Matt along. Even though we're doing loans, we have our laptops. We can pull them out, connect to the internet, get the work done, clear the work off our pallet, and then move to the actual real estate, which is the real business. I mean, that's how I consider it. Is a lot of real estate investors we work with, because that's our niche in lending, is we work with real estate investors, them qualifying, is we refer to them as like, hey, we're just like you guys. We're real estate investors too, but we're mainly on the money side. So that's in the cheap money, not because somebody else in the comments asked about hard money. Hard money is for quick purchases. It's much more expensive. It's probably 7, 8, 9, 10, 12% annual rate. So just so you guys know, the money that we're referring to that we help people with on the consumer borrower side is probably in the 4s right now. It was in the 2s, realized. So we're like the A paper or the best, the least expensive. Consider the A and the B and the C. A paper would be like the prime money, the highest credit, fully documented income and everything. So that's like we're calling the employers, we're checking to see if you're still at your job before you sign. Hard money is like a house that has mold, the roof's caving in, nobody will lend to you, but you still need to close it. You either have to have cash or you're going to use hard money to acquire the property. Usually at severe discounts. So it might be a great deal if you have the skill and the will and the capital, of course, or find somebody who has the money to execute your deal if you're going to be talking about the investing side of things. So happy to answer any questions. Matt went over his deal, and I think, Matt, if you can clarify, you're currently renting 2 of the units out and you more than break even, right? So once you rent out that 3rd unit and move out, you're going to be cash flowing on your triplex.
Yes.
So that's in case you guys want numbers on his deal. I don't know if he wants to talk about it. But,
you guys want like the
yeah.
Okay, so we wanted to invest in a location that is close to home, which is 25 minutes away from home right now. And because like at the end, like when you're doing your rehab or like if a tenant complains, you can just drive there easily 20 minutes with no traffic. So I mean, in Seattle, and same with Cal, like as you know, like real estate, it's expensive. So we had to find like a price point that we can afford, and also being able to have as much door as possible, because 1 to 4 units. With our price point, it was like we can only afford like duplexes, but that's why we spent like a month or 2 to like did like house hunting, and we were able to find a triplex, which is 3 units. And I was like, oh, that's cool. It's like, because if we rented 2 units out, we could still have break even, or maybe just like slap additional like $300 a month while we're working. So I don't think it's a big issue. So our current monthly payment is roughly like $3,500 or $3,600, depending on the property tax that would go up this year. And the 3 units that we have is a 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom, and downstairs is a studio. So the 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom we're renting out currently at $2,050 with parking plus, so it adds up being $2,200. And for the studio, it's $1,300. So if we add them all up, that gives you like roughly $3,500. So we're basically breaking even. Maybe we have to slap additional like $100 a month, which is fine. But once after like a year pass, we can rent all 3 units out. Then that would give us, like, assuming the property tax would go up, maybe $200 more a month. So it would be maybe $3,700. But if we rent our studio for like $1,200, we would have like maybe $1,000 or $900 of positive cash flow. And because we applied for the loan as a 30-year fixed rate, FHA loan, meaning that like our mortgage rate would stay the same for 30 years unless we do a refinance, but that's another story. But as long as we're paying $3,500 every month for 30 years, which is 360 months, and with prices going up, inflation and rents going up, I think it's a really good asset to invest. Because at the end of the day, like I understand a lot of people, like my friends especially, they invest in like stocks and crypto because it's liquid, which is understandable, and less capital. But in the long run though, you're not only like investing your money in it, but you're investing your emotions in it. Cause like I still invest like some crypto right now, but like every day I would just like go to Coinbase and like I don't use Robinhood for crypto for certain reasons, but I would just go to Coinbase. Like it's like a roller coaster. But for real estate, like you can like literally like, okay, the rent's due next month and I'm getting paid X amount of money. So it's really it's like stability versus volatility. So yeah, so that's why I think in the long run, acquiring real estate as a physical asset is a good form of investment. Yeah.
Are there some questions from Andrew? Is that the hand icon?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you talked about refinancing, and I just had a question. So you did the FHA loan, and you put 3.5% down. So, are you paying extra a month because of private mortgage insurance?
Good
Because
question.
that's the whole point of like putting the 20% down, right? So you don't have to pay that.
Yeah, good question. So there's actually pros and cons, of course. Like, it's like, okay, if you don't have that much down, you pay 3.5. Of course, the trade-off is you have to pay the monthly MI, which is the mortgage insurance, which is $500 a month. But if you do have that enough cash by paying 20%, of course, you don't have to pay your monthly MI. So I would say there's definitely a trade-off as well. But since like both of us literally just graduated from college or grad school, and I would say like we were kind of eager to like invest early than later. So that's why we took the risk by doing the FHA loan. But if like I understand like different people have different personalities. If you're very reserved, you can always wait for 20 or maybe 5% with the conventional loan. So like that's why I said there's a lot of like loan products. It's not just one fix like, oh, 20%, that's just a myth. But if you actually like understand like how many loan products there is to offer, it's the sky's the limit.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Marvin?
Yeah,
Question?
I just wanted to comment on your story, Matthew. I just find it very inspiring how you sort of, learned a bunch of useful things in finance, such as like a high yield savings account, 401ks, cryptocurrency, all through YouTube. And I feel like it just serves as a prime example that, anyone can teach themselves. And I actually watched some Graham Stephan videos myself too, like in the past, but could you elaborate more on that moment you were sort of involved in real estate and what steps you took to just get started and dive into the industry?
I mean, I would say like going back to the stories, like meeting Albert, it's like meeting the right person at the right timing. Because at that time I was like, oh, I really want to get into real estate, but I was like, where do I start? And after a month, I got introduced by a friend of mine and said that, oh, he works in the mortgage industry. I was like, oh, it's like, oh, cool. Mortgage is like, it's in the finance sector and it relates to real estate. So I was like, oh, that would be a good opportunity. So that's why I met him. And yeah, so from that story, it went on.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's really like I would say I was fortunate enough to meet the right person at the right timing, because like if I met Albert when I was in like sophomore year, I was like, cool, nice to meet you, and like moving on. I have to get study for my finals.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And it's just, yeah, I guess that's what it is. It's all about. And the fact that, you're still very young, already having, what was it, a triplex, you said?
Yeah, it's a 3.
Yeah, it's just, that's very admirable. So keep it up.
Oh, thanks. You too.
Yeah.
The next one's Dominic, right? Dominic.
Yeah, hello, Albert and Matthew. I'd just like to agree with Marvin saying like, even you guys inspired by both your career paths and just saying just everything you guys went through, even though the struggles and like not being and just the uncertainty of everything and just, having a way in real estate just opens the doors for many opportunities, as you guys mentioned. And also for Matthew, that's pretty impressive for a triplex. So well done on that. Still trying to build my way up there as well. But kind of have a two-parter question, primarily in the chats. I was talking to Albert. I know you mentioned you work with several investors regarding lending. So I was wondering if you could take us maybe kind of take us through that step-by-step process of, you know, maybe a new investor, experienced investor, kind of how the loans look for properties that they are looking to get qualified for. Also, two-part you guys mentioned for wholesaling, and you guys are actively investors right now. Say if a house doesn't work out for you guys, or you guys have target investors that you sell those out to as well?
To answer the first question, yeah, we do work with a lot of investors. From a mortgage broker definition, investors for us are like banks who we can send the loan to. Investor from the definition of maybe from the real estate association, the club, you guys might think of people who buy and sell real estate, right? Or rehab and probably sell properties or something. So it depends on what definition of investors we're using. But some of our investors are Wells Fargo, United Wholesale Mortgage, Quicken Loans, Home Point Financial. There's many investor lenders, so to speak, that we send our files to. So that's our definition of investors from a mortgage broker perspective. But investors in terms of buyer and clients we work with, they're buying properties and we're helping them plan how their money is going into the deal. So we're telling them, hey, you'll have to get a raise in your job. You'll have to pay off your car to qualify. You'll have to get your FICO credit scores from, let's say, I don't know, let's say 680. You need to move it up to 700 to fit into this program box. Now, here are the guidelines for this program. If you want this rate, you have to file your tax returns for 2021, for instance. We help them plan how it's got to look, the numbers, the credit, how much money it has to show up in their account the day they close. We help them do that planning so that they're not caught off guard. So that when they're doing their deal, they can actually execute their game plan and not break out the last minute when they're signing, you know. So that's what we're doing in terms of mortgage. And so there's different definitions of investor for every person, but just to give you a little bit of taste of both, how we look at it. So hopefully that addresses. Oh, your other question was, do we have other deals we sell? We're not wholesalers, although wholesalers come to me, offer me properties all the time. I have bought properties off wholesalers and off brokers unsolicited, meaning the property is not on the market. Like you can't go on Zillow.com and see it. So they buy me off market stuff, and if the deal numbers work well, and I only buy apartments, so if it's a condo or 2-unit or 3-unit or whatever it is, I'll buy it if the potential for cash flow is there, kind of like what Matt's doing. In the beginning, I lived at 2 of my 4plexes as well. So I know what it's like to live in, let's say, not the Beverly Hills of areas, you know, let's just say it's a tougher area. So I've lived in areas like that, and, you know, where you got to lock your car as soon as you get out of it and lock your door as soon as you get inside, type of areas. So I know what that's like. But to answer your question, we don't sell properties. We buy. I mean, Matt could speak. He's relatively newer, but he can answer that as well. Matt?
About wholesale, I mean, what I know about wholesaling is literally you have to find the deals and like meet up the person who wants to buy or acquire like a full-time investor, and you just have to coordinate with the investor and the seller. Then once the deal closes, you get like a fat check or like commission. Yeah. But like at the end of the day, like, oh, what's that?
No, we're just agreeing. It's just agreeing.
Yeah, so you just have to, if you want to go towards the wholesaling route, like you just have to hustle and like door knock and find the deals and like let the investor know. It's like, oh, this seller wants to sell his house. Maybe we can work things out. And like once the deals gets closed, you get the commission. It could be a fat check, depending on what
sweat equity and forerunning, huh?
Just to give you guys an idea, I saw a deal at like 960. But the guy offered me at $1,090,000. It was actually a decent deal too, even at $1,090,000. But when I saw he was making $130,000, I was like, man, I should be the guy getting this contract. I have to pay him $130,000 to execute this deal. But at the end of the day, if the deal makes sense, they have it legally in contract. So if you want that deal, you would have to pay them the $1,090,000 as an example. To get that deal. And that's how much a wholesaler can make if they can find a quote unquote great deal, as Matt said, because you just make the difference. It's whatever you can sell it for. So that's wholesaling in a nutshell. Something different what we do. To earn a living, we help borrowers with their financing, preparing, placing, finding the correct lender for it, and getting them the money they need. The money that we offer is the money you use to buy your own home or the money you hold rentals with, because you need the rate to be really low so that you actually make some income. Because if your rate was like hard money, for instance, and it was 10%, you're not going to be able to, well, I'm not going to say you're not going to be able to, but it will be very difficult to pay your rent, your mortgage, and still cash flow or have extra cash at the end of the day. So hopefully that helps. I don't want to get too convoluted.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely appreciate the clarification and explaining everything else.
Yeah, definitely, guys. Hey, Martin, how's it going?
Hey, I have a quick question. You mentioned like off-market deals. How often, like, is that like something that's done pretty often in your industry, or like in real estate in general, or?
Yeah. I mean, when you're doing commercial, and there's different definitions of commercial. Some definitions are anything that's not homeowner occupied, like you're living there. That's considered commercial in some people. Cities sometimes consider 3 units or higher as commercial. But when I mean commercial is anything that's 5 apartment built units or higher. That's my definition. So in the case of 5 units or above, I would consider that commercial. You're asking, like, is that considered a deal, or what was your question, Martin?
Oh no, it's more like if off market, like deals that are not, like things that are not listed on certain websites, is that like a pretty common occurrence in the real estate industry? Like in terms, I would assume that's more like about like what connections you make, right? And then stuff like that.
Like, are you saying, are there a lot of deals or transactions that happen off the MLS or the multiple listing service online or the open marketplace? Is that what you're asking? I see a lot, because Matt and I, we're in different real estate investing groups. So I make sure my entire team is added to the group. So even if they're not investors yet, I want them to see what our clients are dealing with day to day so that they get the lingo. Because when you're first bombarded with it, it's a bunch of new lingo. You're hearing ARV, like what's ARV, after repair value. And then what is that? We have to figure out what those definitions mean and what does it mean to our clients, because we have to speak their language if we want to help them. Because when I was an investor and I talked to my first loan officer and they started speaking all this jargon, and I didn't know what it meant. It made me feel, intimidated as a first-time investor. So we want to make sure we bring it to their level and help them through the process. And there's a lot of deals. I see a lot of deals happen off market. Some of the better ones today are off market because it's kind of a crazy bidding war out there right now. So a lot of the transactions I see are off market. But every area varies too, Martin. So, if you go to Boise, Idaho, because we're licensed in 9 states, just so everyone knows. We're in Idaho, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, and California. Although most of our business is in Washington and California, we are doing transactions all over. It could be Tampa, it could be Boise or Denver or Grand Junction, Colorado, just to give people reference.
Okay, thank you.
So, are you a broker, Martin?
Oh no, I'm just I'm an FRL student. I was just wondering how, because it seems like it's pretty common. I've talked to some people, and that's why they mentioned to make as many connections as possible, because there's a lot of like certain deals that are not advertised. So it really comes down to what phone calls you get, what people think of you when they look at when they want to make certain deals, stuff like that.
Yeah, I will say the off-market ones. The good thing about it is that if you have a direct line, like a beeline to the seller, you can, if they just agree, you're locked in a contract. You didn't have to bid with like these 15 other people over here. That's the cool part about the off-market deals, because when it's on the MLS or out in the Zillow or Redfin, you could have 15 people and they're going to do 1, 2, 3 rounds of final invest, meaning every round you have to tell them your love story of why you should get this deal and why you're the best and why you have the best price, best terms, you can close the quickest. It's just a lot of competition. But if you can get a beeline straight to the seller, it's amazing because you can lock it up right there. It would be, so that's the advantage of off market. But off market doesn't always mean it's a good deal. Ultimately, you have to buy it at a good price too. So off market could be bad. I've seen off market deals that were higher than on market as well. So just so people know.
Oh, got it.
Internship opportunities, Albert.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. You know, right now we're training 2. We will have some spots open, so feel free to reach out. We'd love to talk to anybody about their track in FRL or their major. You don't necessarily have to be FRL or real estate because there are different roles in mortgage too. There's underwriting, more we need social media people. I'm not the best person to take snaps on IG or whatever. So I mean, and we're doing everything. So we do need other people in different roles as well. And it might be an opportunity for you to learn the real estate investing and mortgage side while you're learning your craft that you're majoring in. So it's kind of cool. You can learn that while learning real estate if you're interested in both. So, although I will say Matt gets the benefit though, because he's in Seattle. So when I fly, because I spend half my time in Seattle and half the time in Orange County. So when I fly in, he gets to go see all the apartments that are under rehab. He gets to learn the real estate side. The other guys that are in Orange County, we have 2 other people. They're in Orange and they're in Tustin area. So they don't get to see the real estate, but they hear Matt talk about it. Sorry, question?
And I was just gonna say that, when that time comes, we'll definitely reach out to you guys and, circulate that internship through our group and also on the newsletter if you're okay with that, just so you can get a broader reach of CPP students. And it's coming close. It's already past 1 p.m. So I know that our guest speakers are also very busy. So I believe that David had his hand raised and Johanna as well. So we'll just take those last 2 and then we can end it after that, if that's okay.
Yeah, it's great.
Last
Go
two.
ahead.
I was just going to go off of what Martin was saying. Where are you finding these off-market deals, if you can answer that?
The off-market ones, I usually get reached out.
Sorry.
Did you find yours off-market? I think yours was on MLS, right, Matt?
Yeah, it was Redfin. It wasn't off market.
But usually off-market, if you're in the commercial space, meaning 5+ apartments, usually those brokers, they're from some brokerage houses. Maybe you guys have heard of them: Marcus and Millichap, Colliers, CBRE. There's some local outfits in Seattle that call. So when they see you close the deal, they call you. They'll skip trace you. It's a fancy way of looking up your contact information, and they'll call you. So a lot of them reach out to us. Another way to find buyers, if that's like, let's say myself, I'm a buyer, is they will look up how many properties you've ever closed in your name, and they'll figure out, okay, this person, this gal or guy buys properties, so maybe I should call them. And that's how they do it, just in case. But I buy both on and off market, just whatever works. Does that help, David? Cool.
Yeah,
I think he's on mute. Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah. Hi, Joanna. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, so basically what you guys do is commercial real estate and the lending part at the same time?
Investing wise, I have 1 to 4 units and I have properties that are 5+. Just to reiterate, commercial is a little different. For lenders, consider 5 apartments or higher as commercial, but technically the use, like the people using the property, is still residential from a use perspective, right? Because there are apartments, people live there, the residential use. So just so people aren't confused of what commercial is, because they're going to hear different definitions. but we only lend on 1 to 4 units. So like a single family house, duplex, triplex, up to a fourplex is a 4 unit. Everything above, I invest in it, but I don't lend on it. I'm just focusing on the mom and pop, the small time investors, just because that's where I came from. So I want to make sure I help those folks. I mean, the rich people, sure, they can do, they've had a lot of people to help them already. So they probably don't need as much.
And also, you guys were mentioning that you guys kind of like fix properties too, right?
We don't fix, but we do have to fix our own property to rent it out to squeeze up the rent.
But properties to be purchased with an FHA loan, they have to be move-in ready, no? So do you guys do like a different loan first, like a hard money loan to buy the property, and then you guys once it's ready, you guys do an FHA loan, or how does that work?
Well, I think. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say you could do that. An FHA doesn't require it to be move-in ready. It just has to be health and safety. So meaning it could be a 1950s shape. You could have green tile on the tub, pink, surround. You could have literally shag carpet and like wood panels on your walls. Like old school. But that doesn't matter. You could still close on that property as long as the heating works. As long as there are no broken windows, no mold, people could live there. Health and safety. It doesn't matter about age. Just so you know, it's as long as it's livable.
Yeah.
Still work. Yeah.
Correct. The word livable, because like when for my deal, like the FHA loan, I mean the appraisal came in. They just said that the window and like the deck needs to be fixed, and the seller had to fix it because they were the owner. In order to close the loan, they have to fix the window and the deck. So in a word sense, not move-in ready, it's livable.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Move-in ready to some people might be like HGTV, like a new floor and beautiful chandelier. So.
That's right.
Yeah. So those are the zinger words we had to learn. But appreciate you guys having us, and we'll be in touch if anybody has any other questions. So.
Thank you so much, Albert and Matthew. That was a very interesting conversation, and great insight into the world of real estate investing and lending. We hope to have you on soon again, and thank you to everyone for joining as well. If you guys have any questions, you can find both Matthew and Albert on LinkedIn, and I believe that they're more than happy to answer your questions through there as well. And also email, I believe Matthew put an email down as well.
Yeah, I put 18.
Yeah, I will.
Maybe we'll give you guys an update later on when Matt rents everything out.
Yeah.
Numbers. If you guys are wanted details, you can do some numbers.
Yeah, we would
definitely.
Let's
increase the rents first. Let's get it operating pretty well before we bring them on.
The nice numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely love to learn more and hear more about those numbers, everything, and then we'd love to even circulate that through the team, like through the group, just to let them have an update on what's been going on.
One advice: establish your credit score as soon as possible.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.
I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.